Okay, you can see me okay? Good, so welcome to the class then. So this is Fit in 30 with V, and today on a Sunday we always do a stretch. So today what I'm doing is a stretch for any of those people out there, and if you're runners. If you go for a run, you can do the stretching before, you can do it after. So we're just going to get a little bit warm up because I'm going to imagine that you haven't done a run. But if you had done the run, you don't need to do the warm up, okay? You just need to get straight into the stretches. So if we start with the legs nice and wide, and just start to bring the heels up behind to your tailbone. So shift your weight side to side when you're ready and just warm up. So bringing the heels up. So start with the feet wide and then just bring the heels up behind you. So when you go running, you work the quads, you work the hamstrings, the glutes, calf muscles. All right, the core is also working. So we're just warming up these muscles. Put some arms in, reach and pull. Good. So just starting to warm up the legs a little bit more, in case you haven't done anything for a while. Okay, and then we'll pick the knees up in the front, opposite hand to knee. Starting to warm up at the front of the thigh, the hip. A few knee lifts. Let's get these legs nice and warm before we start stretching them. Last thing we want to do is pull a muscle. So just keep the knees going. You can add some different arms. You can reach and pull to the side. You can travel it if you've got any space. You can move it forwards a little and move it back. Let's just do a few more of these. Last 10 seconds on the knees. And then we're going to go into some squats. So let's have the feet hip bone distance apart. Let's sit back and stand. Sit back and stand. Sit back and stand. I'm just going to turn sideways so you can see my back. You want to keep the spine nice and long. We don't want to round or shrug the shoulders. We want to keep the navel drawing to the spine. We want to send the tailbone back so your knees stay above your ankles here. All right? So just keep that going. Sitting back into your squat. And again, we'll do 8 more. 8 and 7. 6 and 5. 4 and 3. 2 and 1. And then we're going to do some calf raises. We're going to come up onto the balls of the feet, calf raises. Going to give the calves a good old stretch out today. So we're going to be stretching at the front of the hips here. Keep your calf raises going. Your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes, calf muscles, and the Achilles. And also we're going to strengthen around the ankles with a few balances. All right. Because sometimes when you've got a weakness in the ankles, if you're a runner, you can kind of roll over onto the ankle quite easily. So we're going to just build up a little bit of strength there. So keep going on those calf raises. And you can even start to build up some strength around those ankles by doing the calf raise one-legged. So you could try doing it on one side. One-legged with a bit of balance. And then you can try doing it on the other side. If you're a bit wobbly, just keep the big toe down on the other foot there. So calf raises. Good. Well done. And then we'll just have a little fast run on your tiptoes. All right, just to really get these legs nice and warm before we start doing our stretches today. So the stretches we do today, you can hold them anything from, 30 seconds up to a minute. We'll look at holding them for about a minute each. But remember, any issues with your knees, lower back or neck, you feel the need to come out of the stretch, then you come out. Bring legs in, out, just for a bit of variation. In, out. Good. Keep going. All right, let's do about 8 more of those, and then we'll get straight into our stretching. Hopefully you're starting to feel a little bit warmer. Good, well done. And relax. Let's take a nice breath in, reach up and a nice exhale. And again, a breath in, reach up, and a nice exhale. Twice more. Breathe in, reach up, and exhale. One more time. Breathe in, reach up, and exhale. Good. Okay. So the first stretch we're going to do in yoga is called tree pose. But what this posture is going to do, or this stretch, it's going to open up the hip area here, and it's going to build strength around the opposite ankle and knee. All right. So we're opening up the hips. So let's come on to tiptoes of the left foot and start to turn the left knee out. But what we want is the hip bones here. If you put your fingertips there on those hip bones at the front, those hip bones want to stay level and square. We don't want the torso turning to the left. So we open that hip out as much as we can, engaging the glutes and the abductors here to get the stretch on the inside thigh. And then we need to rise up through the spine, draw the navel back towards the spine so your core engages. You can bring the hands here into prayer if you like. And if you've got your balance, bring the foot up to the shin and pause there. If your balance is good, bring the foot up onto the inside of your thigh. Try not to have it on your knee there. It needs to be below or above the knee, or the big toe down if you're a little bit wobbly. And then I want you to work on keeping the hip bones facing forwards, but work on opening that hip out. So every time you breathe in, elongate through your spine. And every time you breathe out, open up this hip. So feel the stretch here on the hip. So we're going to hold this side for another 30 seconds. Find your center of gravity. Opening up this hip. Feel the sensation in the hip, that ball and socket joint. Another 15 seconds. If you get tired, then come out of the stretch. Nearly there. Good. And then we're going to try the other side. So we'll come on to tiptoes, find your balance, keep those hip bones level and square, and then we turn the knee out. So again, opening up this hip, stretching the adductor, the inside thigh muscle, rotating in the hip joint. We need our hips to be nice and flexible when we are runners. If it's feeling good, bring the foot to the side of the shin and open that knee out. If that's feeling good, bring the foot up onto the inside of the thigh. Sometimes it slides, so you can hold your hand there if you need to. Don't have it on the knee, above or below, or big toe to the floor. And then focus on opening that hip out. So as you breathe in, you're lengthening up through your core. As you exhale, you're opening your hip out. But remember, we're not turning the torso. We want to keep the hips level and square. And just be reassured that you're strengthening around the opposite ankle and the knee. Keep the breathing relaxed. And rest. Okay, still working with these hips, but also we're going to stretch into the hamstrings, the muscles in the backs of the legs. We're going to take the feet nice and wide. Now, how wide you take your feet depends on how long your legs are, all right? The gap between your feet wants to be roughly the same as the length of your inside thigh. So that triangular space there is a triangle of equal sides. And then start with the toes pointing forwards. And from there, turn the back foot, the left foot in, so the toes turn in about 45 degrees. And then turn the toes of the right foot all the way out to point towards the side wall. Now bring the hip bones back to being level and square. Square means pointing forwards. We don't want the hips pointing in this direction. Imagine you've got headlights on your hips, you want them pointing forwards. Draw the kneecaps up so the quads are engaged. Take a breath in and take your arms out. As you exhale, reach over the right arm and tick-tock your hips. Keep lengthening the spine and let that right arm drop down. Put the left hand on your hip. Inhale, lengthen the spine. As you exhale, turn the left shoulder back and you can take the left arm up. So this is called triangle pose. And we're holding this one for a minute. Any issues with that right knee, you can soften your knee a little bit. Make sure the feet are flat to the floor, the kneecaps are pulling up, and really root through the outside edges of both feet. So your hamstrings, the muscles in the backs of the legs are working. If the top arm starts to ache, put the hand back on your hip. And also know that you're working your obliques here, the muscles there on the sides of the waist. Keep the face nice and soft. Keep the shoulders pulling away from the ears. You've got another 20 seconds on this side. So we're aiming to hold each of these stretches for 1 minute. Last 10 seconds. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Top hand down, slowly come up. Bring the feet back to parallel, so pointing forwards, and then turn the toes of your right foot in about 45 degrees. The left foot turns all the way out, so the toes point towards the wall, the side wall, and then you've got to adjust your hips and bring them back so they face forwards. So we inhale, take the arms out. As we exhale, we reach over with the left arm and tilt the hips. The left arm drops down, top hand to your right hip there. Now pause, soften the left knee. If there's any tension in the knees, soften it. Otherwise, keep it straight. Pull the kneecaps up so the quads engage and feel the lengthening into the backs of your legs. Turn the shoulder back and take the top arm up. Shoulders away from the ears. And relax there into your breathing. Keep the outside edges of your feet down. Keep length from the tailbone to the crown of your head. Open your chest, open your hips. Have a feeling of your inside thighs rotating out again, just like they did in the balance, the tree pose. Strong glutes here, strong abductors. If the top arm starts to ache, put the hand to the hip and draw your shoulders away from your ears. Another 15 seconds on this side. Relax the face, let go of any unnecessary effort. And the last 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good, let's come up. We're going to come into a forward fold. So let's bring the feet directly underneath our hip bones. Hips, knees, and toes pointing forwards. We need to take care of our knees and we need to take care of our lower back here. All right? So we're going to inhale and take the arms out. We're going to exhale and place the hands to the hips. And then as we inhale, have a feeling of elongating up through your spine. Now, as you exhale, I want you to bend your knees and then tilt forwards from the hips. So the back stays flat. Get the forearms to your thighs there. So what we're trying to avoid here is this, tailbone tucking under and the back lifting up like that. What we want is to bend our knees and tilt the pelvis here forwards and lift the sitting bones up. So although the knees are bent, we're starting to lengthen into hamstrings here at the backs of the thighs. So that's the feeling you want, at the backs of the thighs lifting up. We don't want the tailbone tucking under and the back humping and rounding. So you could stay there and let the neck go, let the neck relax. All right, see how comfortable it is. If it's really comfortable, what you can do is put your thumbs into the creases of your elbows and let the spine hang a little bit more. And then what you could try and do is push away from the floor through the feet and lift up through the sitting bones to increase the stretch in the backs of your legs. All right, so stay there for me. I'm going to come up so I can check the time, but you stay there and just feel that nice stretch in the backs of your legs. All right, you stay there, you're staying down. I'm just coming up to check the time. Let the neck relax, let the jaw relax. All right, don't be afraid to bend your knees. If you feel any discomfort in your lower back, you need to bend the knees. What we don't want is to lock out the knees and then push our weight into our knees. Also, we don't want to push our weight into our heels. You need to make sure your weight's evenly spread between the front of the foot and the back of the foot. Try not to bounce. Bouncing is not good, okay? So don't bounce around. Let the neck go. Let's stay here for another 10 seconds if we're comfortable. Really start to push away from the floor as those hamstrings start to release. Lift up through those sitting bones. And then to come out of this stretch, we're going to bend both knees. We're going to bring our forearms back to our thighs and we'll inhale and come halfway up. Then we'll exhale and put our hands to our hips. And then we're going to inhale and come all the way up and then let the arms relax. Okay, the next one we're going to do is come into a runner's lunge. So we're going to take the right foot in front and take the left leg back and drop down onto the knee. Now, if you've got any issues with your back knee, any problems, you might want to put something comfortable underneath it, maybe a blanket or something. I don't know what your surface is like. You might be on a hard surface. So feel free to put your top, roll up something and put it underneath the back knee if it's not comfortable. And make sure the back knee is far enough back so that when you melt into the hips, you do get a stretch at the front of your left thigh and your left hip. Check with the right knee that the knee sits above your ankle bone and the knee and toe points forwards. Check you're not lifting your tailbone up. You don't want to pinch in the lower back. So navel back and the tailbone wants to feel like it's moving down. All right. And just pause there. So we're going to just open up the front of the left hip. So we'll stay here for another 30 seconds. Let your shoulders relax. Start to feel that left hip opening up. It's like doing the splits, half splits. The only difference is that we're not fully straightening the legs, but in the hips, we're doing exactly what we would do in the full splits. Let's stay here for another 10 seconds or so. Try and relax into it. When you do these stretches, there shouldn't be tension. It shouldn't be tight. If it is, you're probably trying a little bit too hard. It should feel comfortable. All right, let's change legs. Let's take the other one in front. And move the back knee back from the hip. Check the front knee sits above the ankle bone, the knee and toe points forwards, and then feel this stretch coming up through the front of the right thigh, your quad, your hip flexor and psoas muscle, all right, which work really hard when you run. And then we're lifting the heart, dropping the shoulders, making sure the tailbone is down, right? And then as you start to open up the hip a little bit more, you might be able to melt into it just a teeny tiny bit more. See how it feels. There should be no discomfort. You're not forcing a stretch. You're not pushing anything. It should be a nice stretch, a nice feeling. So let's pause here for another 15 seconds to get that stretch at the front of the thigh to open up those hips. Another 10 seconds. 4, and release. We're going to come into pigeon pose. So for pigeon pose, it's a deep stretch here into the outside of the hip and the glute. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the right leg in front. The right leg comes in front. You flex the right foot. So flexing the foot, that's flexing your foot there. That's pointing your toes. So flexing the foot helps protect the knee. All right. So we try and get the shin bone as parallel to the front edge of the mat as possible, but it might not be comfortable to have it there. You might need to bring it in a little bit more. And then what we do is we slide the back leg back and try and get our hips nice and level. If it's uncomfortable sliding the back leg back, just bring the back leg round to the side instead, and it can be done here. And then what we do is we inhale and elongate our spines. And then as you exhale, you might be able to come down. If you can't come down, stay where you are, stay where you're comfortable. Inhale, elongate your spine. If you're feeling okay, you could potentially go all the way down. Another thing that you can do, if you've got a big gap underneath that right hip in the floor, you can put some padding there, so maybe a cushion or a block. What you don't want to do is lean over to the side like this. If you lean over to the side, your spine will end up in a C shape, and the spine should be long and the hips should be level and square. So we'll just relax here for about 20 more seconds. You can rest the forehead on your hands. Try and find a place where you can release. And then we'll come up and we'll try the other side, okay? So let's take the left leg in front, flex the foot. Try and get the shin as parallel to the front of the mat as you can, but for most people it needs to come in a bit more, right, to get the hips level and square. So it's more important that your hips are level and square than it is getting that shin parallel, okay? So hips level and square rather than sinking over to the side. Put a bit of padding underneath the left hip if you need to. Lengthen out through the back foot, elongate your spine. And then if it's feeling okay, you can come down to your forearm. See how that feels? If that's feeling okay, you could go all the way down and then relax, just relax. So try and release any tension from your body. And we're going to hang out here for a minute. We've done about 15 seconds. So relax into your breathing. Any areas that feel a little bit tight, always try and use the breath out to release. And then we're going to slowly come up. And we're going to come onto our hands and knees. And we're going to do some cat-cow stretches to release the back out. So from your hands and knees, as you breathe out, you round through the spine, tucking your tailbone under. And then when you breathe in, you lengthen the spine without overarching in the lower back. So again, as you exhale, you tuck your tailbone under and round through your spine. And then as you inhale, you elongate the spine. So we'll do this for a minute. Keep flowing with your breathing. Exhaling, rounding through your spine. Inhaling and elongating. Keep going. Exhaling and rounding. Inhale and elongate. Keep it moving. Let's get a nice stretch also into the neck and the shoulders. Do a few more of these. Couple more. And the last one. Good. And then we're going to come into down dog. So we want the feet hip bone distance apart. Now, at the moment, my knees are directly underneath my hips and my wrists directly underneath my shoulders. You keep the hands where they are, but move your knees back a little bit. But keep your shoulders directly above your wrists. So it's almost like you're about to do a press up. Spread your fingers nice and wide. Rotate the upper arms out slightly and pull your shoulders back from your ears. Pull up through the navel. Now, at the moment, you've probably got about a right angle at your knee. I want you to keep the right angle at the knee, so don't straighten your legs until I mention it, okay? And then all we're going to do is lift the knees up off the floor and then push away from the floor and send the chest to the thighs. So stay high on the balls of the feet and keep your knees deeply bent. So initially, we're just lengthening the spine. Sway your hips side to side. Now, if at any point you get tired, you can rest. Let's take our attention now to the backs of the legs. I want you to bend your left knee and release your right heel down to the floor and stretch into the back of that right leg. And then we're going to inhale to the balls of the feet. We're going to bend the right knee. And as we exhale, we release the left heel down to the floor and feel the stretch in the back of that left leg. Do that a few more times. So walking through the feet, do it super slow so that the hamstrings are allowed to lengthen. Don't do it quickly. If you do it quickly, they'll tighten up even more. We're slowly lengthening, not just the hamstrings, but the calf muscles and the Achilles. Keep that going for me. If there's any rounding in your back, don't fully straighten the legs. Start to release both heels towards the floor, but we need to keep a nice flat back. And just pause there if you can for another 15 seconds. If you get tired, rest. And then we'll come down to our hands and knees. And we're going to come and lie on our front. We're going to lie on our bellies. Good. So we're going to stretch the front of the thighs again, the front of the hips and the thighs. So if we take the left arm in front and then see if we can get hold of our right ankle and flex the right foot. And then we press our hips into the floor. And then as we breathe in, we lift. So we keep the back arm straight. So we're pressing the hips into the floor and we're stretching the front of the thigh. We're stretching the psoas and hip flexor and we're strong in the back of the body. Now keep relaxing into your breathing. It's quite a strong stretch, this one. So we'll hold it for about 30 seconds and then we'll change sides. So another 15 seconds on this side. Keep lifting. And relax. Let's take the right arm in front and then with the left hand, see if you can grab hold of your left ankle and then flex your foot. And then we need to press the hips into the mat. And then as we breathe in, we lift up the chest, we try and lift the back knee, we try and send the back heel away from us. What we don't want to do is pull. We don't want to bend the left elbow and pull the heel towards us. We want to send it away to get the lift in the upper body. Keep the back of the neck in line with your spine, gazing probably down at the floor at this point. Another 15 seconds. And then relax. Okay, we're going to come up into child's pose. So for child's pose, we bring the big toes together and we take the knees out nice and wide. Now you can rest your forehead on your hands or you can take your arms behind you. So we come forwards and again, we just try and relax there. It's a nice gentle hip opener. It's a nice relaxing posture. So stay in child's pose while I come up so I can just check the time. So we're just going to relax in child's pose for a minute. Let your upper body release. Let your shoulders relax. Take some nice breaths in and out. We'll stay there for another 45 seconds, 30 seconds. Relaxing in child's pose. Just stay there for another 20 seconds. Fifteen. Last 10. Good, and then we'll come up, all right? And we've got one last stretch, everybody. So let's take the right leg in front and bring the left foot into the side here. Flex the right foot, so draw the toes towards you. Make sure you can sit nice and tall. Now, don't get concerned with touching your toe. Don't get concerned with your leg being straight. This is a forward fold from the hip. All right, we don't want to round the back. We don't want the tailbone tucking under. So it might be that you have to start with your knee bent so that you don't get the tailbone tucking under and the rounding in the back. And then we're going to inhale, take the left arm up. As we exhale, we want to turn our torso to face that right thigh. And then we lead from the heart and we bring the left hand to the side of the leg to the floor. And then we inhale, lengthen the spine again. And now as you exhale, you can bring the right hand forwards and relax. Keep the knee and toe of the right leg pointing up, keep the foot flexed, and keep breathing your way into the stretch. It's a hamstring and calf stretch, but you won't feel it if you're like this and your back is rounding. If you're like this and your back's rounding, you're not going to feel it. You need to send the heart forwards and send this bit back, okay? And then we'll just relax there. Let the neck relax. We'll stay here for another 30 seconds, relaxing into your breathing. All of the forward bends are really good stretches, but sometimes people get too keen to touch their toes and then all they do is round and pull on the lower back. All right, so never be afraid to bend the knees when you're folding forwards, whether it's standing or whether it's seated. And then we'll inhale and come up. Let's swap the legs over. So take the left one in front, bring the right one into the side. So also this is opening up this hip as well. Flex the foot, see how it feels in your pelvis. If it feels like you're already sinking, then you definitely got to bend that knee. And then we'll inhale, take the right arm up. As we exhale, turn towards the thigh and relax. Take another breath in, lengthen your spine. Exhale the left hand forwards and release. And then keep breathing. Inhaling, lengthening the spine. And exhaling and releasing. Let the jaw relax. Try and find a place where you feel comfortable. Just stay here for another 20 seconds. And then we'll slowly, slowly come up. We'll cross the legs. And well done. Thanks for coming to the class today. Those are some nice stretches you can do before or after you go running. When you're warm, whether that's a warm up through running, whether it's because you've had a shower and you're feeling nice and warm, or you've just done the warm up that we did today. Take care. You okay, Chin?